PBO people, you just missed the best burp in the world. We're back with the Neon Power Rankings. Today I am joined by the Season 8 Neon Champ, which is also the Season 9 Crystal Champ, now in Sunset, the Icarus Indian Fur Knaves, Aiden.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And with me, from Neon to Sunset, the same, but no chips, but maybe this season, the Columbus Conkelders is back for Neon this time.
How do you do, everybody? We're all here. We're all having a good time, aren't we? Nice cut in. Okay. I think we're ready to get started. Do you think so?
Absolutely.
Okay. We're going to take a look at our first team. We're going to start off with the Belfast Grafaiants. So, at the bottom of the power rankings here, we're going to, before we really get into it, I think we're going to start off with a few disclaimers, as we should with all of these power rankings. This first preseason, we're going to be talking about the teams individually, apart from the coaches. So you may have a specific play style that you enjoy playing with. You may like certain mons and have more comfortability with certain mons over others, and we totally get that. We're just here to assess the teams as a unit individually, apart from playstyle, all the things I mentioned before, and just see pound for pound which ones would probably we think can go further or may need some adjustments. So without further ado, as the previously mentioned Belfast Grafaiants, we lead off with a round 1 Garchomp into round 2 Terra Araquanid, and then we get into some of our support pieces with Corv, Sin. We have an 11 Ninetales here with a Krook, and then into a pretty late round Cinderace, which was a pretty good pickup in my opinion. And then the back half of the team made up by Cress, a little Muck, Palmont, and then you have a Terra Beartic in the back there. Quite a few guys. I don't know if it... To me, this team just feels a little bit mishmash. Not a whole lot of synergistic pieces. I think your best three of Garchomp, Sinistcha, and Cinderace all work pretty well with each other. And then Corv and Araquanid can kind of do some cool things, and you have a pretty good ground type in Krook. But as far as the rest of the team, I just don't really see the vision. The speed is kind of all over the place on this team. Your top end of Cinderace is kind of followed up by Garchomp as far as your next respectable speed tier. And then beyond that, you kind of just go into your bulky guys who want to not really invest in speed. So I think a faster team, or a team that has more faster offensive sets, will actually be able to run like more boosting natures into this team and be even more threatening than they originally would be. So I think that's going to be some things that are going to hold this team back from ever reaching their true potentials. But there's some things on this team that I would probably want to shift around in order to improve it and more realize the vision of it. Because I think when you have Garchomp and Sin, those two will work really well as you have something that can take advantage of a lot of force switches in Garchomp and have the opportunity to set spikes, to set Stealth Rock, whatever the matchup calls for. And Sin is a really, really good blocker at doing that. Because at least for some of the top tier spinners that we have in the format, two being Tusk and Treads, Sin has a really good matchup into those. Because a lot of the times you can just run Colbur Berry, block a knockoff, and you're tanky enough to take an Ice Spinner a lot of the time. And you can just pretty much switch into any kind of rapid spin attempt that they want to throw your way, and you'll be able to either get a Machikacha off, get a Calm Mind. It's just really good at taking advantage of those top tier spinners that we have. So those two work really well to keep those hazards up for your team and be able to keep chip going. But outside of Cinderace, I don't see a whole lot that's able to really take advantage of that opportunity. I think there's quite a few pieces that could be moved into this team that can help take advantage of that. But outside of the basically your top 3 or 4, I kind of struggle to see a lot of options for the remainder of your Ring 6 every week. I think Muck might be the closest thing to that for me, but I Like Muck just needs a little bit more to really justify its position as a good special wall here. But that's about all I can think of. Aiden, what do you got on this?
Yeah. So I mean, Garchomp round one is, it's Garchomp's always a solid Pokemon. You know exactly what you're getting out of it. At the spot that you drafted it at 5 feels a little overdrafted. Like you don't quite have that top end power. But that can easily be made up with the rest of your draft. This draft, however, I feel like there are a few changes, like Cowtown mentioned, that could fix the issues that were previously discussed. I like your removal is Corviknight, and with your hazard heavy team that you have with Garchomp, Crocodile, Araquanid, you don't really want to be clicking Defog or Court Change for that matter with Cinderace. So like it's you can do it, especially if you're like an offensive Chomp, if you're a Scarf Crook, if you're not setting hazards that week, it's fine. But I don't think that's really sustainable in the long run in a meta that really likes hazards. So I think some changes that we came up with that you could make and I think drastically improve this team is drop your Alolan Ninetales, your Beartic, your Cresselia, and your Palmot. And then pick up Terra Keldeo, Regieleki, and Sableye. So Alolan Ninetales, other than being a fairy type, it doesn't feel like it really has a place on this team. The only thing it benefits is Beartic. But if that's the only thing it's benefiting with Snow to give Beartic Slush Rush, Beartic is probably one of the like worst Slush Rush. It probably is the worst Slush Rush abuser in the meta. So I think it can still do things, but I think that having Alolan Ninetales and Beartic on your team just for that reason is not worth spending as many points as you're dishing out. Meanwhile, Terra Keldeo being added to this team is a huge benefit to you. Your team lacks immediate and setup special offense, and Keldeo brings that in almost immediately, whether it be Scarf, Specs, or Sub CM with Terra. It adds so much to your team and typings that you need, and it adds a great speed tier. Just overall, it really improves your team. Regieleki adds removal, and it always now forces your opponent to bring a ground type. They should always be bringing a ground type anyway, because every team should have a ground type. But it just now really reinforces that they have to bring it. And then Sableye is a ghost type, can block the spin for all the hazards, which Sinister was as well. But if you're going to Terra that instead of Keldeo, then you want another ghost type to block. And so that's what Sableye does. It also provides Prankster, Encore, T-Wave, Wisp, whatever you need in any given matchup. So both of those things are one of the reasons we decided to add Sableye to this. And I think this drastically improves your team. You now have a great defensive backbone with Corviknight, Sinistcha, Crocodile, Alolan Muck, Sableye. You've got both offenses really well. Cinderace is free to be offensive every single week. You don't really ever want to be running Court Change either with how many hazards your team should be setting up. And then you have two amazing Terra captains in Keldeo and Sinistcha. I don't really see Terra Araquanid doing much. We made it work with the points, so there's no need to change that or anything. And I think you could pull something off. I believe that is probably more of a comfort pick since you round 2'd it. But yeah, this team with those changes fixes some of the issues we had with it, and I think improves your team a lot. But before those changes, it does kind of feel like there are pieces that are just kind of randomly thrown on here that don't have a lot of synergy. Feels like you're spending some points where you could be better utilizing them. And that's the reason why, unfortunately, you are at number 14th spot. But I would be very happy to be proven wrong and see you end up being 3-0 after 3 weeks. And then it comes to the midseason power rankings and we have you at number 3, 2, 1. Who knows?
Yeah, it's always fun being able to eat my words whenever it comes to this kind of stuff. I think last season, when we were talking about Norwalk and Crystal, we were not very high on that team, and that was turned out to be one of the more deep threat playoff teams. So always take this stuff with a grain of salt. You guys know how you play. You guys know what kind of play styles you guys like. So trust your gut when it comes to this stuff. We're trying our best to help in this kind of circumstance, but at least we just want to make sure that everybody has the tools that they need to succeed. And I think that these additions would probably be a great addition for you going forward into the season. But that's about all we have to talk about here. I think we're ready to move on to our next team.
All right. I was just
Okay. I say you want to count me down and then I'll
Yeah.
get in, or you want to just go for it?
That's how were you talking or was Aiden talking?
I was about to introduce the Kelowna Kricketunes.
All right, on go. 3, 2, 1, go.
And then for our 13th place team, we have the Kelowna Kricketunes. So this team is an interesting one. You have some really solid pieces. Terra Quavel, Sneasler, Galarian Slowking, all like that's a pretty good top 3. It's almost everything after that feels a little weird to me. Like Tyranitar is a little bit weird. It doesn't really do anything typing wise, and it doesn't really benefit anything else on your team. Like if you had an Excadrill or some other sand abuser, I'd understand, but you don't really have anything for that. And again, you already have a dark type. Rock type isn't necessarily, not even necessarily, it isn't a good defensive type. So it doesn't really seem like it provides much to your team. And then like some of the other lower pieces, like Grimmsnarl is here, and it's, I understand why it's here with screens and everything. Prankster T-Wave is always nice. But then like Indeedee doesn't do too much here. And then obviously you have Kricketune, pretty sure that's just a pick because Webb's in mascot. So I respect it. But I think your team lacks some removal that's desperately needed. Like Quavel has Rapid Spin, yeah, but it's Terra, and you really don't want to be clicking Rapid Spin here. I think your team also lacks like a little bit of speed. You go from 120 in Sneasler to 110 in Moth, and then I think it's down to 10. Is Thundurus 101?
101.
101, yeah, down to Thundurus at 101. So like that's not bad, but I would like to see something like maybe above a little bit above a 105 or around that 105 range. Because then after Thundurus, it goes down to like, it goes way down to like Skarmory or something in like the 60. No, Indeedee at like 95. But Indeedee isn't like the biggest offensive threat, so not everyone's gonna like respect that in the builder. Your hazard game is fine with Tyranitar and Skarmory, but you have nothing blocking for it. So people are gonna be able to spin on you pretty freely. And conversely, your team is really weak to hazards. Glowking does not like hazards. Iron Moth before Terra really does not like hazards. Thundurus before Terra really doesn't like hazards. Skarmory loves to keep Sturdy up. So the fact that this team gets freely stacked on and can't super easily stack against is pretty bad. But I do think that this team has some pieces to be really good. Just a few changes that probably need to be made. Yeah, Kato, you got anything?
There's some things I really, really like about this team. I'm a huge fan of the potential of Iron Moth, especially with Terra. When it comes to just like, if you want like pure button clickers, I think Moth is one of the premier options here. That said, I do think Moth is a little bit of a role overlap with Thundurus. Two guys that are in that 100 to 110 speed range are just one to click their stab plus Terra option, whether it's Choice Scarf with Thundurus or Choice Specs with Moth, or you can also do a Scarf on that guy. I think both of those guys kind of overlap in their roles. So when you're going to bring like two special, especially offensive guys, and you run into something that can effectively handle both of them through their special defense. Normally I would say like T-Tar, but that's on your team at the moment, so that's one less thing to have to worry about. But I think that's a little bit of points that you could have spent elsewhere, whether it's taking Moth off and finding a different offensive option, or taking Thundurus off and finding something else in that speed tier. Outside of that, there's a lot of things I really like about this team. Big fan of Sneasler. That guy can do a lot of good things. Quack is your Terra, being able to provide you with something in the end game that can punch really big holes in the team in order for either Sneasler to clean up, Moth or Thundurus, any one of those guys you should pick. And then your hazard game, as Aiden mentioned, with Scarm is pretty good. Grim, I'm a pretty big fan of. But outside of that, I think Slowking has its purpose here. I feel like the team is just a little bit too fast paced for my liking with Slowking on this team. I think it kind of slows everything down a little bit when you want to just like break everything at a breakneck pace, blitz everything down. You want to go fast. You want to go really fast with this team. Set up your hazards with Scarm, set up your screens with Grim, and then just start nuking things with Moth, Thundurus, Quack, Sneasler. All those guys just want to click buttons, and you want to win the game as fast as possible. And I think there's just, with Glow and T-Tar, those kind of slow things down a little bit. That's just kind of the idea of the team that I have, at least as it's currently constructed. I think it's just a little bit... it's leaning towards that hyper offense style of team, but some of the more defensive pieces kind of go against that. I think if you wanted to lean more balance, I think if you drop the T-Tar, you drop the T-Tar, you drop the Thundurus, since you have a little bit of tight roll overlap with Moth, you pick up something like Garg, which is still on the board, and you make that like your Terra Captain, your one of the Terra Captain options that you have. I think that could work really well with the Glow King that you have. Your Spike stacking your rocks with Scarm can help reach that Garg end game. I think Terra Garg is just one of those... here's a secret for all of Neon. Terra Garg can probably win the entire league. It's just that good at winning games that it's not really supposed to, as long as it has the right Terra. You do something like that. You pick up Garg. You maybe get Crown in there too. Give you another steal option that can kill those fairy types that might give you some problems with Quack. Sneasler, some weeks it wants to run Gunk Shot for the damage, and we all know how that accuracy game goes. So it's always nice to have a special attack that can also never miss. So that's also a really nice option to have. And then you pick up something like Toadstool as like a backup spinner. It gives you a special attacking ground type. Those are really nice in this kind of format. And then the nice thing about Toadstool is anytime that you think, oh, they're going to switch into their ghost type here, I'm just going to spore them, and I'm going to get free sleep turns. And now I'm going to go into Grim, set up screens, or I'm going to go into Garg and start setting up my my curses, or I'm going to go to Quack. There's so many options you can go from that. You can game plan off of that a lot of the times. But those are just some options I think that could lean more into that balanced style that I think is more prevalent in this, at least in this beginner div. But if you're wanting to lean more into that hyper offense, I'd probably just drop the T-Tar at the very least and lean more into some heavy hitters that can fill more of a different role than something like the overlap of Thundurus and Moth. But outside of that, I don't think this team is too bad. I think you're just missing some of the more important roles that a lot of the well-performing balanced teams typically get. But it more comes down to play style as far as how we rank that, and I think this one just doesn't quite lean into that quite as much. But I think that's about it from it. Anything else to add, Aiden?
No, I think you got everything.
Okay. Well, I think we can go right into our number 12 spot. And we got the Richmond Ragingbolts. So this team led off with a round 1 Tinglu, if I'm remembering this correctly. Yes, round 1 Tinglu. We got Annihilate and Cornerpon. We followed up with a Hadron, a Thundurus, Volcarona's here. We got Big D Knight. Big fan of that guy. Melodic. And then I think we got Registeel after Grace. I think we got that during Grace. We picked up the mascot. And Umbreon to round things out. So the structure of this team is pretty decent. I think you have a solid game plan with Tinglu and Annihilate being able to go into games. You have a pretty good hazard, one of the best hazard setters, one of the better spin blockers, since you also have the benefit of gaining the boost from Defiant Boost anytime that you run into like a Corv matchup where they want to defog it away. I really like Annihilate for that. Corner Pond gives you another option if you want to do some different things with Tinglu. And then I think beyond this, I think my favorite part of this team at this point is D-Knight, and that's about where it ends. I still think the structure is pretty good. You have good pieces here. I think your biggest hole here is the complete lack of hazard removal. There's no kind of rapid spinner to free up your Volcarona is probably the biggest gouge here. Without that, you're running boots more times than not with Thundurus, Volcarona, Dragonite. Pat, I don't want to say it's going to be very good for keeping those off because I think your opponent will probably prep their teams to eliminate the hat in order to get rocks onto the field however they need be. But I typically, more times than not, I've seen a lot of teams be able to work around the Hatterene a lot easier than not. So I think if you provide yourself a little bit more of a rapid spin, like even on the lesser side of the top end, or lower end, if you find yourself a lower end rapid spinner, I think that's more so a win for you as opposed to having something on the team like Melodic, which I think is just kind of sitting there, not really doing too much. I think if you throw that on, find yourself a different water, I think you could probably work this team a little better. But as the team is right now, I think it's just it's missing some pretty crucial pieces to enable your big offensive threats like Thundurus, Volcarona, and Dragonite, and allow them to kind of fulfill their role to the maximum here. But I think I'll let Aiden talk about some of the things that we think might help this team reach its full potential, because I think once you do see some changes, I think it could be pretty threatening as it is.
Yeah, I mean, this team, I think as Kowtow mentioned, it lacks the immediate offense, right? Like, you have Orgerpon Cornerstone, you have Dragonite, but that's like it. Because Thundurus is not that great of immediate offense. It doesn't, I mean, it gets grass not to hit, like, ground types, but, like, that's not great. Volcarona almost needs setup because it can't really have an item, especially on this team, being super weak to rocks. Like, everything hates hazards. And then Annihilate, it can be like scarfed and banded and have like some immediate offense, but if you're Terra, you kind of want to be like some sort of setup. So it's not like super immediate. And then as he said, Hatterene's a little more easy to play around. So I think if you were to drop Thundurus, drop Milotic, and then take the Terra off of Cornerstone, because while I'm a big Terra Cornerstone, Corner Pond enjoyer, that thing did me super well in Season 8. You don't need it. Especially because I feel like Annihilate's going to be taking up that Terra slot a lot more often than not. You can get a decent spinner in Regieleki, since, you know, the ground types are always coming. Like he can spin no matter what. Well, not no matter what, but you know what I mean. You pick up Inteleon, it gives you a good speed tier, it gives you some immediate special offense, which your team very much lacks. And then, yeah, that's it. Make those two changes, and I think this team becomes instantly better. I do think your team lacks a little bit of that top end power, due to round 1ing Tinglu, but I mean, this team with those changes could be really, really, really scary.
Well, I think we're ready for number 11 here.
Numero whatever 11 is in Spanish. I didn't
Numero
take Spanish in
11.
high school. All right. That is going to be the Melbourne Metronomers. All of the Skeledirge apologists, come on out. It's one of the reasons why this team is low. Round 1 Terra Urshifu single strike is a little out of the ordinary. I think it can be good with Terra, but I don't think it benefits nearly as much as either other round 1 picks you could have made or other Terra picks you could have made. I still do think it's good. That and Terra Gliscor are really good. I really like Clefable as well. But after those 3, this team's just weird. Like, I don't necessarily understand why Weavile's here. Like, it's a good speed tier. It's pretty strong. I don't really know what it does for you, though. Like, all the other pieces, you can kind of, like, talk yourself into it has a role. Like, Skeletor, it's your spin blocker. Fortress, it's your spinner. Gengar, it's your special offense. Rotom, it's your bulky water. Besides the last 3, they're just so odd on this team. But even then, like, spin blockers, Skeletor isn't necessarily the best. It would like to run something other than Boots, and Fortress is not the best remover, so it's probably still going to have to run Boots. I feel like there are other better special breakers. Terra Gengar, that extra point or 2 on Gengar for Terra didn't need to be spent, because you're almost always Terraing Urshifu or Gliscor. So you have no reason to spend that extra point. You could have spent that extra point on something else. I think Rotom Wash is, like, fine, because, again, it is a bulky water. It's a good pivot. Like, that's fine. I think if Salamence is going to be here, it almost has to be Terra. Otherwise, I don't know why it's here. Because you could try to run, like, bulky Intim sets. You could try to get some D-Dance setup sets. But without Terra, any random ice move is just going to smack you upside the head, and you're going to, go flying down to the ground. Yanmega, like I said earlier, weak to hazards that your team isn't necessarily the best at removing. Snorlax is fine. If it's going to be here, I'd like to see it Terra. Because then it has some like viable, threatening Terra setup sets. But yeah, this team a lot of it just feels awkward or weird, and that's why it's this low.
Yeah, I think awkward's probably the word I would use with this team, because I don't think that there's any, like, one Pokemon on this team that I would actively tell somebody to not draft in a vacuum. But when you put all of those Pokemon onto a team together, I don't clearly see the vision here, because when you look at what Urshifu Single wants to do, you want to click Banded, you want to click Choice Locked, Wicked Blow, Close Combat. You want to be doing that breaking roll. And then what is wanting to take advantage of something like that? Because your setup options, you have Weavile is there. You can click Sword Stance with that, but that kind of shares the same. If you run into a wall that takes your Wicked Blows and your Close Combats really well, a lot of those will work well for Weavile too. So effectively, you have 2 guys that kind of embody the same role, but they just do it either faster or slower, depending on which one you start with. So that's a pretty big problem that I have with the team, because I might just say, okay, this defensive piece just shuts down Weavile and also works into single, which if you let that get chipped down enough, maybe it could work, but I could also just revenge kill this Weavile pretty easily. And then that leads me into going into the Skeletor switch, the Clefable switch. I think these guys can do their roles effectively. It's a very good floor team, but I just don't see this team's ceiling being very high. I think Gliscor might be the most the highest ceiling pick here. Is I think that guy can basically do anything and steal games, win games it's not supposed to. But going back to the roles here, I think Fortress, not a huge fan of it. I think it can do things, but when there's Skeledirge, Salamence, Yanmega, Wash doesn't like taking rocks. Gliscor and Weavile certainly don't appreciate taking that extra chip that they need to survive the hits that they want. Having to reinforce all those guys with Fortress when there's so many ghost types that can just so easily switch in and prevent it from clicking Rapid Spin. Because even if it wants to Volt Switch out or set up a screen, the fact that you're not clicking Rapid Spin is effectively a win for somebody who gets rocks up and let's say you're not running Boot Sturge or Boots on Wash. You're winning that turn just for the fact of that you're not getting that Rapid Spin off. And there's not much the Foresters can do otherwise. At least with a lot of the good ghost types that we have in this generation, or just Terra Ghost types in general. So if, let's say, for instance, a Hydrapple comes in and clicks Terra Ghost, you effectively have to just let that get a free Nasty Plot, as it should, into you. You probably don't do a whole lot of damage with Gyro Ball, and if you Volt Switch out, you're going to have to figure out something to take either a Giga Drain or a Fickle Beam. These are just a lot of different situations where you have to think of, like, what can my Rapid Spinner do to not only get the rocks or the hazards off, but what can I do to beat the ghost types that want to stop that? And I don't think Fortress does the job for you there, and I don't think it facilitates the threats that you've decided to put on this team. But in the case that your opponent cannot take advantage of that, I think this team is fine. There's a lot of immediate offense here with Single Strike, Weavile. Gengar can provide that to a certain extent. You can run some choice sets on that, but I think the structure of the team is just about, of course, the floors you can get, but it's going to be a lot up to piloting skill in order to see if this team can take it to the heights that it needs to go. Our first weather team for this division. We start off with a pretty good pick in Roaring Moon. I think that guy's a really good round one guy. Going into Torkoal kind of dictates the rest of your draft. You draft Torkoal, you draft Sun. That's kind of the direction that you're going. You get Chiyu, so now you have really strong physical breaker and a really strong special breaker to go with your Sun team. And then you go into Aloe, DOD, Mimikyu, more so like defensive role guys that kind of just either flip turn or teleport out any given situation. Mimikyu's here. And then we get into some of the more heavy hitters. Terra Venusaur and Walking Wake are effectively the 1 and 2 Terra captains on any given Sun team. I would go as far as to say if you don't have these guys, I don't know how successful you can be with the Sun team. So these are really two important and really strong pickups, especially later into the draft. You get Weezing. Weezing is here. And finish it off with Gambit and Gardecuno. I think Gambit is fine. It's there. It can be a threat on paper, and then Guard is kind of just kind of points thrown in here. I'm not quite sure what the Gardecuno's doing in this scenario, but as far as the Sun team goes, I think this is pretty functional. The one complaint that I would probably have with this is your removal is Torkoal. That's not exactly what I would be hoping for, but it's there. I do think it's not quite as pulling its weight to like you basically just want to be clicking Lava Plume with it to spread burn or Wisp in some certain situations, and then anytime you want to run Rapid Spin, it's there. It's just some weeks you would rather have the Heat Rock. And anytime that you're switching into a Stealth Rock to spin it off and you're taking that damage, that's less opportunities that you have to actually get that Sun up and allow your Moon, allow your Chiyu, allow your Venusaur to actually do those things that they do well, outspeed threats, and just bring that immediate offense that Sun can provide. So it's obviously a bit of an ask, but you don't have like Tusk that can also fill that kind of opportunity, but for what we have here, I think this is a functional Sun team that can really wreck some teams if they don't have the specific answers for it. But I think there's just there's a few interesting picks that kind of make me scratch my head a little bit. I think DOD, Aloe, and Mimikyu are kind of iffy for me. Same goes for Guizing and Gardecuno, but I think the 6 that I would probably be considering on a week-to-week basis, meaning Moon, Torkoal, Venusaur, Wake, Gambit. I think all of those 6 being all together on a specific team is going to be a really hard challenge for your opponent to try and face. So I think when we talk about those guys, we have a pretty solid game plan. You're typically going to try and beat your opponent in 15 turns or less. Outside of that, it might be a bit of a struggle to win those long and drawn-out games, but I think it's possible, especially when there's a King Gambit. But as long as your opponent has the tools to beat the team, I think it's just going to be a little hard to innovate outside of the typical Sun formula that you have. But it's a good starting point from where we're at. That's pretty much all I have on it. Nothing really more I have to say on that. I'll leave it for Aiden to sprinkle in some knowledge here.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that, like, on paper, the only thing that I see wrong with this is just that your only removal is Torkoal. And I know the Kowtow touched on that earlier, but whenever your removal also wants to be setting Sun for extended periods of time, so it wants that Heat Rock, and it takes like 25% on entry every single time, it really makes it hard to keep Sun up the entire game for your threats like Moon, Venusaur, Wake to benefit from that. Now then, you know, things like Moon and Wake, they don't always need Sun up the entire game. They can function without it. So there might be some weeks where you don't bring the Venusaur, you just bring Moon, Torkoal, Wake, Chi-Yu, and then 2 other Pokemon of your choice, maybe Gambit and Weezing or Gambit and Mola, but Gambit since it's Terra should probably always be coming. I do think basically everything except for Moon, Torkoal, Chi-Yu, Wake, and Venusaur are a little bit odd. Not saying that they're bad, they're just a bit odd within the structure of your team. But I do think that some of the pieces work because they are bulkier, just pivot pieces, come in, take a hit on the Pokemon that, you know, is hitting your current one super effectively, and then pivot right back out into the Mon that's going to best benefit you for that offensive situation. So I do actually kind of like the way that the team will end up piloting. But I do think there are going to be times when the opponent gets rocks and a spike up, and then you find yourself being super limited in the Sun turns that you have the rest of the game and having to really micromanage that and make the absolute most out of every single turn that you have, which is very, very difficult to do in some matchups and situations. So I'll be interested to see how this team plays. It definitely seems like a very has a very high skill ceiling in those, but it also has a at times has a very low floor. So I do think this team is good. I just think there are times when it will be challenging for this team to do what it wants to do. But yeah, other than that, as long as you don't have anything else, I think we should be ready to move on to the next team.
I think we're ready. Next,
which is the Fredericton Froakies. So when we were first talking about this team, it was actually somewhat low in the rankings, but after talking about it a little bit, we decided to move it up because of the fact that the team has a few odd pieces, but overall has at least a very, very bringable and strong 6 every week. Starting with Tusk, great removal, amazing ground type, amazing first round pick. It can do so many things. Super great roll compression. Golden Go being your ghost and not your only steal is really good. Your hazard game is really good between Heatran and Hammerot. Hammerot getting free spikes. Heatran being able to set rocks. I believe Tusk can set rocks as well. And then you also have webs with Spidops, which I doubt you're bringing Spidops very often, but it's, you know, it's there. and then Fez and Heatran and Arboliva being your Terra captains. Your 6 every week is kind of just Tusk, Golden Go, Hammerot, and then probably Fez, Heatran, and then one of like Kyurem, Kilo, Hoopa, which is really, really strong. Your special offense is great. Your physical offense is great. I do think it is slightly lacking when Tusk isn't like an offensive guy, because there will be times when he needs to be more of a utility guy, needs to click spin, needs to click rocks, something of the sort. But I do think there are just a few changes to make to make this team just that much better. And I don't really think I have anything else to say about it, so I'll let Kowtow go on with that.
Okay, so I am a pretty big Tusk Laser. I really like that guy. Anything that has like really strong roll compression that can also just win games on the spot, I'll always be pretty big on. I've used Tusk a few times, and I think one of the things that Tusk really appreciates is being able to chip down your opponent with Hazard chip. Pivoting chip is really important for this guy, and I think pivoting chip is something that this team provides pretty well. Between you have a pretty good pivoter in Kilo. That's pretty much what it's going to be doing if it's brought. Fez being able to get that toxic chain proc on anytime it wants to U-turn is going to be pretty big when it comes to setting up any kind of Tusken game. And then your other option is Ham. I think that guy might be more of a, in my opinion, it might be more of like a click ceaseless edge until you die kind of guy. I've tried doing different sets like Assault Vest or even like Choice Band just to break some holes, but I think the fact that you can get spikes with that guy up pretty effectively just allows you to do so many different end games with either Kyurem or Tusk or even Gold in some certain situations. But I do love the defensive backbone that you have, especially your Steel types, allowing Heatran to be more of an offensive like Fire type. Since you have Gold to effectively take those ice moves, those fairy moves, I definitely see everything on paper here. But I think it's just missing. It's missing that defining piece, like maybe that stronger Terra Captain than Heatran to take advantage of the Gold Tusk not really needing that boost from Terra or that flexibility, since they're already able to do those things. The thing I kind of don't like about this team is Hoopa not being Terra. I think you're missing out on basically the entire upside of Hoopa being able to change his typing, because as it stands, it effectively provides 0 defensive value for your team. It's extremely frail on the physical side. You can run Assault Vest, but you're basically taking nothing but neutral hits, which in some circumstances is enough to negate the benefit of an Assault Vest on the special side. Being able to Terra is effectively the sole reason that you want to draft Hoopa. You can do a lot of different things with it. Give it that fairy typing to kind of flip its weaknesses, so you're no longer weak to fairy. You resist bug now, so you're not scared of a U-turn every time that you're on the field. Unless you want to do the switch to Hoopa Unbound, I would strongly suggest just removing it from your team entirely, because you have really good special breakers in Kyurem and Gold. Heatran can also do that too. And then your physical breaking, like you can do that with Tusk, and then Ham can also kind of fit into that role a little bit. And you can also do the end game like spear loaded dice sets with Kyurem too. So you're not really lacking on either side of the aisle there. I would honestly just break it down to get more roll compression, or get yourself something like Screamtail. I think if you threw like Screamtail on this team, it gives you a more respectable speed between your Kilo and Fez, which I think is pretty important here. I always like fast encore guys. I think those are really I'd almost go as far as to say is essential in this generation. With as many hazards and setup that a lot of teams want to run. I think Encore is just one of the most vital utility moves that you can get, and Screamtail's a really good user of that. So if you were to make that kind of move, I think that's something that could put this team like into from like solid to really good, probably able to compete with some of the higher echelons of teams that we have yet to talk about, just because the structure of this team is really good, in my opinion. So I think that's one of the things that's holding me back from really liking this team, is that Hoopa Unbound just kind of taking points from something that could be better spent. But outside of that, I really like a lot of these pieces. I'm a big Arbo fan. Fez is kind of I really like that guy. I think Terra it's almost limitless. It was what you can do with it. But I think we've pretty much said all we have to say about that. I think we can just go right into our next team here, which should be the Caborca Gengars. Okay. So we want to talk about Caborca here. We have a round 1 Rillaboom team, and this team is built around Rillaboom almost exclusively, it feels like. You have a lot of ground weak threats that are synergized with the Grassy Surge that Rillaboom wants to set. Gouging is able to take advantage of that pretty well, effectively wall a lot more threats, being able to take that recovery and run boots more. So you're not missing out on any kind of like Citrus Berry or leftovers healing when it comes to setting that terrain and letting it do its thing. Tinkaton is a big beneficiary of that. Some other guys down the line, Magnezone, Magnezone's probably like, what's one guy that if it was like just a steel type, or if it was like you took it took it a notch down on its ground weakness, maybe it could be really good. But I think it's not my favorite as far as Rillaboom teams go. It's very slow, for one thing. This is a very slow team, and your highest speed guy being Hawlucha. That's another thing. You're probably, especially since it is Terra on this team, you're probably, anytime that you're going to bring it, going to be using Unburden sets. And effectively, anytime that you need to switch into Revenge Kill something, Hawlucha is going to be your endgame threat. So you're either going to be bringing it in far too early and giving your opponent an opportunity to phase it out, or it's just not going to be able to take advantage of that revenge opportunity at all, and you might just get rolled from the spot. So the fact that your highest speed after that is Tinkaton at 94, it might be one of the slower teams I've seen in a while, but you have the bulk to kind of make up for it, if that makes sense. Mandibuzz, Slowking, Hydrapple, Tinkaton, Gouging, all of those guys do really well at leveraging their bulk to output either utility or offensive pressure. Hydrapple is one of the guys I'm really big on. I mentioned it before in that rapid spin scenario. You can throw Terra Ghost onto Hydrapple and effectively have it be your Ghost. I've seen it done in quite a few situations, different leagues, different tournaments. It's just one of my favorite mons to just spectate and use. So that's another thing that benefits from grassy terrain. But I think the synergy of this team is visible, and I see the goal, but I think it's just it's really lacking in the speed control, your hazard removal with Serena, which can work, but it's not on those higher end tiers of guys I would first consider. I'd probably want some other guys other than Serena, but it can work as a budget guy. But I think there's cool pieces here and there. I just think there's a lot of opportunity for improvement with this team, and if those things are kind of worked worked around. I think this team has a lot of potential to kind of shoot up the ranking as the season goes on. What do you think about it, Aiden?
Yeah, again, one thing I noticed first thing is that you took Rillaboom round 1, which in, kind of means that you don't have that top end power, like, like I've been saying the whole draft or the whole recording for some of the other teams. But I do think that this team does make it work. Your defensive backbone is really, really strong. And I do think that almost everything benefits from Rillaboom, which is nice. The Terra Halucha, obviously, whenever I see round 1 Rillaboom, I kind of expect Sneasler to be there next, and you were Wheels, so that's why I was expecting to be your round 2. And then you took Gouging, so that to me was a little bit confusing at first, but I also understand it. And especially if you wanted Halucha all along, then it's fine. And you got your Terra Halucha in the end. But I do think that at the end of your draft, from Hoopa on, besides Halucha, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, Hoopa's a ghost type. Yeah, Cloudsire's a ground type. 2 types you kind of needed. Serena's your spinner. Serena's also fine since it is your spinner. It has a role. But Mag, Claude, and Hoopa just don't really make much sense to me. So in that, we did come up with a few changes that I think would make this team a decent bit better. We said drop the Hoopa, the Clodsire, and the Magnezone. Go grab yourself, I believe it was Muck, Sableye, and Sandy Shocks.
Yes.
That way, you keep your Poison type, you keep your Ground type, keep your Electric type, you still get your Ghost type and everything. You just lose your second Steel, which doesn't really matter because Magnezone is so slow and isn't bulky enough to where it doesn't really function too much as a Steel anyway. It also isn't really coming to many games. Meanwhile, I think Muck, Shocks, and Sableye all can come to more games than Magnezone can. Clodsire is just too much of an overpay for what it does. Yeah, it spikes, it's T-spikes, it's unaware, yada yada. But at the end of the day, any Steel type with an air balloon comes in on it, and then the Clodsire can't touch it. It doesn't do anything. It's so passive that I feel like it's almost a detriment to have for at least for 8 points. It's a little much. Meanwhile, Shocks still gives you spikes. It gives you a 101 speed tier right above 100, which your team actually really likes. You also still get, you get Prankster, Encore, T-Wave, Will-O-Wisp, some great things to add to your team. It still gives you a spin blocker for the hazards that, your Sandy Shocks wants to set up. And overall, I think that adds a lot to your team. And especially with it being a special attacker, something that your team kind of lacks outside of Hydrapple. It's really nice, and it's something that doesn't get nerfed by Rillaboom's grassy terrain, since Earth Power isn't nerfed by that. Another pivot is always nice, and adding Muck still gives you grounded poison. It gives you a better matchup into things like Enamorous and Lando. You just run whatever resist berry you need, and then you can hit it back really hard. Special Wall is pretty good, but yeah, overall, your team, I think, is going to be super, super annoying to deal with. It's really tough to break this down, and the next thing you know, the whole enemy team is chipped, in comes Gouging Fire, gets one D-Dance, and then the whole team just can't break through it in time before it just runs through their entire team. So I think this team has some serious potential with a few changes to become really, really threatening. You got anything else to say, Kato?
No, I think we're ready to close the book on this team and move into our next team, the Ottawa Donphans.
So
happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, happy belated birthday. One of the things that I first noticed with this team is you got Terapagos for 19 points. And then I know you wanted the bounty on Slitherwing, so I understand that as a round 2. After that, I don't know where your points went. we had 120 points, and I see a lot of what the general populace consider to be quote unquote mediocre Pokemon. I understand that all of them have roles, and they are good at those roles. And I do think that they all fit together. It's just a lot of these feel like they could have been slightly upgraded. And after looking at the board, we couldn't really like pick out any pieces to really be swapped around for any other pieces. This team is a solid team. It just feels lackluster in the places you don't really want it to be lackluster in. Like Latios is good special offense. You've got your setup with Terapagos, Orgerpon. Orgerpon's also immediate offense as well, which is really nice. You've got all your types, your steel, your fairy, your dragon, your dark type, your ground type. Of course you have the mascot Donphan. Welcome home. But I wish that you had. Actually, you do have two pieces of removal, Terapagos and Donphan. So it's nice that Terapagos isn't locked into Rapid Spin all the time. It can run Rock Polish a lot better. I do like Galarian Moltres on this team a lot. I think that thing can kind of just lead in any matchup, click agility, get down low enough with Berserk, and then just start sweeping teams with Terra. I think that's really, really good. Raikou, I think, is also a slept-on Terra captain. I don't think it benefits as much as Gold Trace, for example. But it does have its moments. I'll be intrigued to see how you use Slitherwing this season. I'll be intrigued to see where it finishes. I think its main role on this team is going to be a Revenger, something that comes in on like Orgerpon or Empoleon or Latios, gets that final finishing blow, or Slitherwing takes a hit like a ground move or something, and then comes in, clicks first impression, and then it either does 50 or it takes a kill. Especially with Terra, you could just be Terra Bug, Terra Fighting, and just hit that much harder with choice band sets. So overall, I do think this team is solid. I just wish that in some places, and I looking at it, I can't quite place my finger on exactly where I wish the team improved. I wish some of these pieces were just a little bit stronger. Maybe Kowtow can help kind of articulate what I'm trying to say here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you said where the points go on this team, it's hard to argue oh, this should have been drafted here, or this should have been this is a bit of a reach, because I think a lot of these picks are either appropriate for where they were drafted, maybe except for Latios. I think that might be a little bit of a reach. Slitherwing is you wanted that bounty, so you wanted to make sure that you got it. So I understand the thinking there. So I think rounds 2 and 3 are the missed opportunities for heavy hitters or Omega utility guys. So
yeah,
I think Pagos round 1 is what position was Ottawa? Was he 6? So getting Pagos at 6 was a pretty good bargain. Because I think that should not leave the top 3. The amount of utility that Pagos does bring with Spin, Toxic, and Rocks, while also being able to become a legitimate endgame threat once you have the steals and the ghosts removed. I think that's probably one of the biggest steals in the draft, is letting this thing fall so far. But the ability, I mentioned being able to remove steals and ghosts. I think the former, you have that well under control. Slitherwing, Heartflame, Donphan, you're able to just kind of lock those steals up and just eliminate them so Pagos can spam its Starstorm. Ghosts, on the other hand, Moltres is a little bit... it's not quite as powerful as something like Heartflame being able to just delete steals in 2 hits. It kind of needs the Nasty Plot or the Berserker boost in order to delete those guys and effectively neutralize them. Something can just Terra Ghost on this team and provide enough switch-in opportunities to Pagos in order to block those Star Storms, so that it's going to be a little tougher to remove those kinds of guys. But off of your Pagos pick, I think everything else on this team is an acceptable piece. I don't think there's like, maybe Globro might be the one thing that I could say like this probably could have been a better pick, but it's the last pick of the draft. I don't think there's much to argue for it because it gives you the grounded poison that you need. It's bulky. It gives you some regenerator. I think it's fine for what it is, but this team is like, you can't really argue about like all of the guys put together on this team. Maybe one thing is like the top end speed being Raikou is a little unfortunate, but I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. You have a pretty good Scarfer and Latios. Pagos being able to either click spin or rock polish can shore up your speed mid match, so you have options there, and then you have pretty good priority with Slitherwing's first impression too. So I wouldn't count you out of being able to be just outsped completely and being rolled over by a team that's just faster, being able to set up first. So I think the structure is about as good as we've seen so far, between just like 10 solid guys. And then the problem to me is like, who are you going to bring each week? Because I think leaving some of these guys on the bench, like let's say you need to bring Donphan one week, you might be missing out on either Raikou or Moltres being able to slot onto the team because you need the utility that Donphan brings, or you need the fairy type from Sylveon to prevent a dragon type from rolling over your team. I think it might just be a little difficult to justify which one to bring which, but I think this is a fairly balanced team that can handle quite a few different threats. There's a lot of good pivoting on this team. Your hazard game is pretty solid. You have a few good rock setters. Heartflame may not want to click spikes every week, but it can work. And then you can just do something like Terra Ghost on your Goltris or something like that. But this is a pretty high floor team. I'm not sure where the ceiling is for this team. There are quite a few things that you can do with these guys outside of just some of the things that they're good at, but there's definitely the potential to win quite a bit of games. It's just going to be very dependent on who you bring and how effectively you utilize all the pieces that you have. So we're starting to get into a lot of the teams where it's hard to... We're going to have to start nitpicking at what makes these teams lower than some of the others, but this is probably one of my... where I start liking the teams, and if I were to take over any kind of team, this would be one of the teams that I could probably see the vision and be able to use during a season. And that's about all I got for this guy. Congrats to a solid draft from Mr. Ottawa, Mr. Crunchy. We're going to move on into our next team. And we're going to probably the coolest team name that we have, in my opinion, the Zarude Sandstorm. You could probably tell how this team got its name. We have a round 1 Terra Zarude Demon into Deoxys Speed. Pretty good partner for this guy. Being able to fit a lot of different roles makes Zarude a little bit more flexible. And we got Drill for some removal. We have a banger of a defensive core in Prim, Moltres, and Rotom. I'm huge fans of each one of those guys. So we have a really solid 6 right off the bat. We go into Cinccino. Sydney Sylveons, you are going to make me lose my mind now that you have me Cinccino pilled. Cinccino. Komao is here. I wouldn't call myself the biggest fan of non-Terra Komao, but I understand why you used a lot of points into your top 2 Terra captains, and you kind of needed points for everybody else, so I understand why it's not. With Toxapex, big fan of that guy. I think being able to just sponge hits, and you can put a lot of creative items on this guy in order to make it work. Personally, I like eject button stuff. I think switching into something and then being able to instantly pivot off of a hit, soak it off with Regenerator, and then go into one of your more threatening guys. I think that's something that's a little underutilized with Pex and just Regenerator guys in general. And then Hippowdon is here, pretty good ground type, can be a pretty solid rock setter for what it's worth, and then also enables your Terra Excadrill. So if you want to go into a week where you want to use Terra Excadrill, you have the option to do so, and your opponent basically has to respect the chances of, do I want to beat you fast, or do I want to beat you by using my setup Zarude, or do I want to use do I want to do both? I think this team offers a lot of prep nightmare for, especially in like Neon. I think if you can find the right Terra for your Zarude, I think this team has one of the higher ceilings I can think of. A lot of defensive and utility backbone to complement this team. Some good encore users, removals there. Your hazard game is effectively there, and then playing different screening options, statusing, phasing. It's all here. So all of these pieces are here, and they work pretty well together. There's not really one super solid weakness that I can point out with this team. It's just the big question of can you find the line to win the game with either your Zarude or your Excadrill, and can you basically execute the game plan to win it in the end. So at least for me, outside of this Como, I'm a huge fan of this team. I really like it. Aiden, what do you think about this?
Yeah, solid 1-2 with Zarude, Dio Speed, the perfect facilitator. That's what I'm looking for. Perfect facilitator for Zarude. Screens, hazards, just another offense guy, whatever it needs to be. Whenever I first saw this team, I will admit I didn't see Hippowdon. So me and Kowtow were sitting here before, and I was like, why is there a Terra Excadrill on this team? That's so many points for what? And he was like, I see it. Terra Excadrill is really good. And then I look at the team fully, and I was like, oh, there's a Hippowdon here. Well, that changes everything. If aforementioned Tyranitar does end up dropping, I think that could be a good use of points. I don't know necessarily what you drop. Probably Kamo-O for something a little bit different. And then Hippowdon to make up that point. And then, you do have a ground, but maybe try to find another budget ground. Toadscruel, perchance. Maybe. Just a thought. It also adds another spinner to your team, because I know Excadrill, when it's Terra and in Sand, doesn't really want to be running spin. So that could be something. But other than that, this team is super, super solid. Moltres, great. Primarina, Rotom, all super great defensive backbone. Toxapex is a Pokemon that I think fits into a lot of teams really weird, because you can't really build around Toxapex. And it's hard to fit Toxapex into builds just based on what it does, because it's so passive. And it can't really hit things, but also it's so great at taking hits that a lot of the times it just, I don't know, it's just super, super weird. Chinchino being here without Terra is also a little odd. Same with Kamo-O. I understand what they're all doing. Chinchino can get rid of hazards, it can set up, it can still do things without Terra. Kamo-O, I'll be intrigued to see if you do anything with without Terra. I think that Mon has a lot of untapped potential, but I just, I'll be intrigued to see if you can tap into it this season. But having to prep for Zarude and Excadrill, both Terra, is an insanely difficult task for people to have to do, on top of Dio Speed being able to click plot and sweep with Life Orb special sets as well, or they might set screens, or it might be a hazards lead, or it might be disruption. Meanwhile, you still have to do with Primarina and the crazy defensive backbone of this team. It's going to be a very difficult time for any opponent to have to prep for this, and I'm excited to see this team this season. You have anything else to add?
No, I mean, you mentioned it. Excadrill, anytime that it wants to Terra, the hazard removal is a little weaker, but yeah, I think the offensive and the defensive potential of this team is super there. It's just going to be purely pilot skill is the limit here. So a lot of expectations for this kind of team. Hopefully we can see a lot of good games out of it.
All right, and then with that, we'll move on to the next team, which is the East Coast Crocodiles. So this is the second and I guess technically only other weather team. You could call the other one a sand team, but it's really just Excadrill Hippowdon. So this is the only other like real weather team, and it's rain. One of the big things that happened during Grace is that Big Will dropped Overquill. And that is something that we think you should immediately undo. Please go pick up Overquill. Hisuian Quillfish is not a replacement. This team otherwise is really, really good. You've got your Terra Arch, Zapdos. Terra Landorus is a little odd. I don't think it necessarily fits within the Rain archetype, but I do think it is a very strong Pokemon, and I think you will find a really good use for it. You know, you got your Terra Barra, Pelipper, Cyclizar for removal. Caragonal is here, I guess. But this team is super, super strong. I don't really know what there is to say about Rain. It's a pretty tried and true, tested archetype. You know, you kind of know what you're getting. Whenever you see it on the builder, you're like, okay, this is what this Pokemon's going to do. This is what this Pokemon's going to do. And how do I deal with it? So there's not too much else I can say other than it's a Rain team. It's scary. You have Palafin, Terra Barraskewda. Kato, you got anything else to say? Maybe discuss changes a little bit further?
I don't want to harp into the transaction too much because it's it might have just been a personal decision on that front. But
absolutely.
As far as the rankings go and the objectiveness of it, I think it's objectively a worse move dropping the Overquill for the Cyclizar, because when you talk about like what a Rain team wants to do, your main goal is to eliminate the water types and the grass type. The water types and the grass types that want to come in and resist your Palafin, your Barraskewda. You want to free that those two guys up so you can just rain down the water type firepower. So what Overquill does for you is it switches into the grass types. It can just click Gunk Shot to eliminate those threats. It also is neutral into those water types. Zapdos can help on that front too, but Overquill getting the Swift Swim additionally just gives you that extra bit of offensive capabilities that not a whole lot of other Pokemon can do. And you dropping it for Cyclizar when you already had Cryo. The thing with Rain teams is you only get so many turns of Rain. This is similar to Sun, that any turn that you take to click Rapid Spin, which is, I'm assuming, the point that you grab Cyclizar for, any turn that you take to click Rapid Spin is a turn that you're missing out of your damage potential in your Rain turns. So that's something that it's just it's kind of lost on me. Because if you want to play the long game, I don't think Rain is the I think Rain Stall is gone in the ways of Gen 5. I just don't, because you just want to be clicking buttons. Any turn that you click Rapid Spin with your Cryo or your Cyclizar, yeah, they're getting faster, but that gives your opponent an opportunity to either change the weather or to set up their own Pokemon in order to better handle your offensive Rain threats. It just goes, it seems counterintuitive to me as far as the thought behind the transaction, but only time will tell as far as how well they turn this team out to be. I understand the thought behind Terra Landorus. You can't miss Sandsear Storm in Rain, so I understand the idea behind that, but as I previously mentioned, your goal is to eliminate the water and the grass types to allow your Barraskewda, your Palafin, your Arch to a certain extent to just be able to click buttons and win the game in less than 20 turns. Outside of those 20 turns, I think this team can struggle to win the long game unless you can position Palafin pretty effectively. So I think I won't harp on that transaction too much longer, but that's pretty much my thoughts on this. The structure, Rain, is very scary. It's well enough to put it up to this position, but I think if you had that over Quill, this would probably be a top 3 team. But yeah, that's as much as I'm going to go into it on that. All right. I think we can go into we got 1, 2, 3, 4, top 4 teams now. We're going to go and transition into the Carolina Cetitans. Right off the bat, this team is fat. Hey, that rhymed. This team, we had round 1. We had round 1 Terra Hands into Bloodmoon, which is, if you want to talk about trading, like going 2 for 1, there's nobody better than these two guys. Bloodmoon and Hands can both just lead off of a game and kill 2 guys, and now your opponent has to claw back from a disadvantaged situation. And the fact that you have both of them, you could kind of just go like back to back and just put your opponent into an incredibly deep hole. It's just prepping for both of these two guys and essentially having to bring a sack for both is going to be something that your opponent is just going to have to deal with, and you're going to reap the benefits of by having setup opportunities in guys like Latias, Glamora, Orgerpon to a certain extent. There's plenty of different situations that you can take advantage of. So the breaking power on this team is really, really good. Probably some of the best that we have had so far up to this point. I think the surrounding pieces are a little bit iffy. You have your only hazard removal in Glamora with Mortal Spin, which people should know by this point. It's very easily blocked by steals. Earth Power isn't going to cut it every time. And then you do have a good speed in Bundle, but you have that pretty big 20-plus point gap between it and your 110s. Which might come into play sometimes. But I think with in a metagame with no Dragapult, I think this is fine in this specific circumstance. But I really like some of the other pieces that we have. Klefki, I think, is freed up to kind of do more of the hazard role in this effect, because you have Lati, which kind of takes on that utility bulk option. And then that in turn allows Glamora to run more offensive breaking sets. I really like the idea of running Power or Meteor Beam and then just blowing holes into the rest of the team a lot. So I think there's a lot of pretty cool things with this. You have Terra on Orgerpon. That guy's pretty strong, especially for the price that it is now. I think we have it more appropriately adjusted as far as the price is for what it does. And then Terra on Incineroar, I'm kind of interested. I'm not sold, but I'm kind of interested. There's a deal going on here, and if you can sell me on this deal throughout the season, I'd be very interested to see what kind of value that guy could bring. But I do think more times than not, it's going to be Orgerpon in Hands, depending on which one you want to finish the game with. So I think there's plenty of potential on that front. The last 3 guys are kind of whatever, in my opinion. Fergaraf, Cleavor, Driftplim, 2 Defoggers at the end. It's kind of whatever. Driftplim can kind of be a anti-meta spin blocker, as I previously mentioned with Sin. Does pretty well into Tusk. Can basically invest in the physical defense needed to absorb those hits and strength sap them, and now they're kind of just stuck. I think it's has a niche, but not exactly what you would hope for, but I think everything else on this team is pretty well structured. The spin is probably the biggest complaint I would probably say is keeping this team held back from being one of the top echelon teams, but it's right there as far as potential goes, and just the sheer destructive power that your top guys bring. I think this team is extremely threatening. Aiden, what do you got on this now?
Yeah, this team, as you said, is literally just trade city. Next thing you know, you have 4 Mons, they have 2 Mons, and then you still have an Iron Bundle, Orgerpon, Latias, and whatever else, and then you just win the game because they have no more checks. Or you lose the game because you have no defensive checks. I don't know. Games can go either way. But no, yeah, your team is very strong. Between Iron Hands, Bloodmoon, those two are just absolutely insane monsters. Bundle, you just gotta land the Hydro Pumps and then you're A-okay. I do think the last 3 Mons are kind of just meh. I do think they could be changed a little bit to slightly benefit the team. Like if we just got rid of like Farigiraf, Cleavor, and Drifblim, and I think got 2 other Pokemon that would service your team a little bit better. I think this team could be in that upper echelon, and really be that top contending team. Like get hazard removal, because your hazard removal is Glamora right now, which is not really real. And then get like a ghost to block for all the hazards that you want to be setting up. So like Regieleki's there, and then since we were working on a budget, Trevenant there as your ghost, also a ground resist. Both of those are pretty good choices, I'd say. But you've got all the pieces, screens, pivots, everything that you could need. Kowtow pretty much covered all of it, so I'm not gonna talk for too much longer. But yeah, this is very easily where I think you can see a clear difference between the teams that were under it and these like top 4 or 5 teams.
Okay. Well said. I think we can move into our number 3 team.
Believe so.
The BC Pyroars. He's back.
He is back. Thrive. This team, is probably one of the most solid that we've seen so far. Not anything that's gonna like super catch your eye. Not anything super out of place here. Everything just has its role. Horn Pivot, Grand Cleaner / Breaker, Scizor, classic tried and true. Terra Enam, the Terra star of this team. You got your removal, you got your Mamoswine, your classic ground type Uxie, Rotom Heat, Hitmontop, your bulky pivots, Terra Haxorus. I'm really excited to see. I really hope you do something crazy with that this season. I think that mon is kind of busted. Whenever you get it going. And then you got Terra Tree, which you gotta fill in the points somewhere. But this team is super well rounded. Pivots everywhere. Draft player must pivot, some would say. Orn can set up, do what you need it to do. You got everything to break for Grin to clean in the end game, or for Grin to break and then everything else clean in the end game. You've got Terra Enam to do literally whatever you need it to do. Tentacruel and Hitmontop to both clean up hazards. Obviously Tentacruel the better spinner, but it frees up Tentacruel to not always carry spin. And then Hitmontop has priority for whatever you would need it to like come in and revenge, because I think that's something that people sleep on all the time. Is Hitmontop with Technician, it gets Bullet Punch, it gets Mach Punch, like it doesn't get anything to hit ghosts, but it can actually come in and do some sneaky damage with Technician priority and revenge some things that you may not expect it to. So don't sleep on that mon. You can bring it and it can be a threat some weeks. Or you can just run like Intimidate Assault Vest sets, but I really like this team. It's super solid, super sound, pretty foolproof. Yeah, I can't really say much else about it.
I could. I think there's one electric fire type that's on here that might be ticking off some boxes.
Oh, come on.
There might be just a little microwave that's sitting right there that might just be a little bit of a type chart fix.
The removal's fine. It'll be boots or not. Who cares? It fits the one
Yeah.
thing it needs to.
I don't think it's egregious on this team. I think you have the pieces to let it run other items besides boots. I think some trick scarf sets could actually be pretty good on this guy, being able to volt switch around. But I think that's one of the what picks for me. I understand as I do anybody that tries to draft Rotom Heat, but I think there's just a lot of better options that could be taken in that round. But I won't harp on it too much because I don't think it drags this team down that much. Gives you something to click Volt Switch and T-Bolt. I think status spreading on Heat is not too bad. Being able to click Willow and Thunder Wave just as the other Rotoms do. But with Cruel and Hitmontop, I think you have the capability to run some more creative sets than just Boots Pivot, which it's normally locked into. But a lot of the offensive pieces on this team are just so interesting. I'm very intrigued by this team. Torn and Gren being able to be your Avengers any given time or be able to set up. I wish Gren was able to be Terra on this team because I think this would push this maybe over the top for me. But I understand you have Enam. That's going to be your main Terra guy most of the time. But I just want to see Protean Gren just pop off. That's one of my favorite things to see in draft. But speaking of that Enam, I think this is the one thing where I think Mamo might just be locked into Scarf a few weeks because some of the best sets that Enam can run are specs just spamming your Terra Fairy Moonblast. I think there's a few more things that it can do, but it's just one of the best ways to kind of break holes with this team is just to run like Scarf Mamo or like Band Ice Shard and just get rid of those poisons and steals in order for Enamorous to just go off and just be unresisted. Like Mamo enables that. You have some other pieces like Scizor to switch into those threatening types like Steel and poisons. So I think the support around Enamorous is pretty good. You have a lot of utility pieces. Your hazards is decent with Uxie being able to set rocks and status some guys. Your hazard removal is solid. I think this is we're into some really solid teams. I just think the potential of this team might be a little bit more limited compared to what some of our higher rated teams are, but this is a very super solid team. Well done for drafting something like this. I just, if I had to say anything, I think the bottom half of the team might have been able to be more points adjusted towards some more favorable guys to help push your agenda. But I think what you have is well enough to win week in and week out. So, like that wraps up what we have to say about the Pyroars, and we can get into our second team. Rated number 2, we have the Sydney Sylveons. Holy crap. What a jump we have made. We have round 1 Bolt. Gotta respect that guy. Into round 2 Darkrai is pretty nuts. Into round 3 Jirachi, about as perfect of a steel partner as you could have asked for with these two. And then we got Landro T on the round 4. Like, holy crap. This is already like an insane just breaking combo of Darkrai and Landorus being able to do other things rather than just breaking, so you have to be careful when it comes to those guys. And then you get into some I think Blaziken is just super cool. It can fit into not too many team archetypes, but in this specifically, it's kind of freed up to either just break a team open for your other guys to clean up, or you can just make that your win condition. I think it might not be as optimal as something like Bolt or Rye, but it's there. I think it works pretty well with this team. Blastoise as your removal is pretty solid. Having the option to turn that guy into a setup threat is always there. Can force Mirror Herbs on some teams, so I think that's something that can be accounted for week in and week out. And then the rest of your draft is pretty solid from there. Florges, kind of a Wish Pash bot, but it's a good fairy type for what it does. You can win some games with like physical calm minds, phys def calm mind sets. Being able to pass Wish onto some of your guys that can't really sustain themselves is really nice. Chestnut is here for spikes, pretty good spike setter. Switches into ground types and deals with them pretty easily. Magius is your ghost type. I think that's a solid piece for what the rest of this team is. And then Carbink is probably one of the better one-pointers that you can get this late. There is at 2 points. It's about as good of a budget fairy as you can get, and then you already have Floor just to handle those fairy responsibilities, so it's free to just like lead spikes, set rocks, Misty, whatever you wanted to do. You can even run hazards pretty effectively, or screens pretty effectively on this guy. So everything on this team has a purpose, and there are so many like things you have to account for on this team. It's almost going to be impossible for anybody to develop a super solid game plan for this team. The only thing I could really complain about is you have some pretty prevalent weaknesses to ground, ghost, and fairy, but I think a lot of good teams have one combination of those weaknesses, and your bolt can basically turn into any kind of type that you need to either throw an assault vest and tank those hits and kill them back and trade, or to turn into an advantageous type that you need to resist and win the game if that's your win con decision. So you have enough flexibility with Bolt to do what you needed to do, and I think you have all the roles filled out around it to basically do as much as you need to win the game. So I'm very impressed with what they were able to draft with this team. Maybe this will be the season for them, but as we may know, it's not what we think is the best team, but it's pretty damn close to being about as good as you can get. I'll let Aiden give some additional thoughts in here if you want.
Yeah, I mean, you got your Terrorbolt, Darkrai, Jirachi. It's kind of crazy that they let you have that top 3. It's pretty criminal, actually. I don't know why you have Darkrai on this team, second round, but here we are. I think Blaziken is, like, fine. A lot of the times, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, set up Blaziken, like, wins. But in reality, half the time, the better set is, like, just Banded. Banded, Blaziken, breaking, and then also getting the speed boost so that things can't easily revenge it goes kind of crazy, especially when like you don't need it to clean. Like you have a Terrorbolt or like Scarf Lando or Darkrai back there. You can just click Flare Blitz or CC and then keep getting those speed boosts. And next thing you know, their whole team is at like half health, and then you come in with Jirachi or Darkrai or Lando and you click a move 6 times and you win the game. And then your support pieces are great. Blastoise is spin, Florges for your Spadef, Chestnut for physical things that don't have flying moves. Watch out for Terrakion Air Slash. It gets that. It'll 2-hit KO you.
It's
Watch
there.
out. Terra Mismag is pretty good. So like as a good like Terra Captain behind Raging Bolt can't be bad. So like, yeah, I think Kowtow kind of hit the nail on the head with everything. This team just, without any better words, this team fucks.
This slaps. Good team.
So, yeah, and with that, I think we move on to our number 1 spot. And if anyone's been paying attention to what coaches are in Neon, I think you might know who's at number 1. And that is the commissioner, the one, the only New England Porygonz, soaring, flying on YT, is here at number 1 in your Neon preseason power rankings. The man who has not played Pokemon in what feels like 10 years is back. Meowscarada, Iron Treads, Terra Wogerpon, Pecharunt, Excalibur, Diancie, Mesprit, PZ, Terra, Slowbro, Morgrem. What a team. You get the one of the best Revengers the streets are saying in Meowscarada. Great removal in Treads. One of the best Terra captains in Wogerpon. Pecharunt to block for all the hazards that you're totally setting. We ignore the fact that it's really only Iron Treads. Meow could click spikes, but probably not. Excalibur. Yeah, but like Terra Diancie doesn't really want to be running like rocks. Or I don't even know if it gets spikes, but if it does, it probably doesn't be running that either. It'll probably be like defensive or setup or something like that. But Excalibur to win any game from any spot, Mesprit, PZ to break games open, Terra Slowbro to eat any hits that it needs to, Morgrem to set up screens if it really has to. Overall, there's not really much else I can say that's like bad about this team. This team is just so solid, well-rounded. I'll let Kowtow do the finishing touches on this team because I can't think of anything else.
So this team has about everything that you could want from a Paldex team. You have the speed and Meow. You have the addition, the supplemental speed is what I'm going to call it in Woger and Treads. PZ kind of rounds that out a little bit. That's your top end. That's a really good top end to have as far as your speed goes. Really solid braking power with Woger, especially when you do want to click that Terra button. The Trailblaze sets are pretty good. You have the opportunity to do Swords Dance stuff. And I think on this team, you could also work in like Spike's pivot set. That could also work really well, catch your opponent off guard and allow your other guys to kind of pick up the slack that you'd be missing from that. And then you get into Petch and Excalibur. I think Petch, without Dragapult, Petch has got to be, in my opinion, the best ghost type available, and he got it round 4. So I think that's a super, super, super solid pickup there. Being able to parting shot into a lot of your threats like Meow, Woger, Bax, Diancie in some certain situations. There's just a lot of good things to like about this. One thing I'm really happy to see here is Slowbro. I think that's one guy that I've been paying attention to for the last few months. As far as like value to point total, I think this guy has insane value that he can bring to a team when it terras. You think about guys like Hydrapple that can terra into any particular type and get a free turn to Nasty Plot, and now you have to deal with a boosted move. And its natural bulk allows it to take hits while dishing out damage. I think Slowbro is able to do that to a certain extent, maybe lesser so than Apple, just for the fact that Fickle Beam and Giga Drain are hard to deal with, in addition to either a Terra Blast or an Earth Power for that perfect coverage. But Slowbro doesn't have any kind of lacking moves on this front because obviously, Psychic isn't the most intimidating threat, but it still gets Scald, which is a pretty spammable move by all counts. You can Terra into water to power it up and remove your weaknesses to Dark, Ghost, and Bug, while also being able to go into different Terra options like Ghost to block Rapid Spin. You can Terra Fairy to flip your weaknesses and give you a more spammable new stab, while being able to keep your current coverage. And then you have Regenerator on top of that to just do it all again later in the game. It's all stuff we've seen Hydrapple be able to do pretty effectively, and that guy is just shot up the board. And I think this is one of the things I'm excited to see if this guy can actually follow that up and be able to pull off something that's in that similar vein. That's one of the cool things that I wanted to try this season, but unfortunately couldn't fit onto the team. But the rest of this is just we've hit it on the head with Bax being able to just break games open or clean them out, any kind of position there. Mesprit is pretty huge. Giving a healing wish to anything on this team would be insanely valuable. But every single role that you can think of is pretty much here. Every single side of the attacking spectrum is here. Your defensive pieces are really well put together. And then all of your points are pretty much allocated specifically to fill a role that you need, and they're filled about as well as they could possibly be used. There's not a whole lot of negatives to pull out of this team, at least ones that can't be fixed with like a Terra from Deancey or Slowbro, or even just overpower them with Wellspring in your offensive pieces. Add on top of that one of the best speed tiers and revenge killers in Meow. This team is about as good as you could ask for. It's kind of insane. So there's going to be a lot of expectations that come with this team. No pressure, but this is
not even just the team. Since everyone knows the commissioner in this league, there's going to be expectations with the team, but also for him. After coming out of retirement, after 10 years, what it feels like, it's only been like 2 years, and being ranked number 1 in PRs, if he doesn't go 8-0, failure season. Just gonna
failure of a season.
Okay, man. Okay.
I was just about to ask if you wanted to say anything. That's crazy. Do you want to say anything about this season, Mr. Soaring Flying number 1 in PR?
Shout out to Aiden for taking the time to do this. Shouts out Ben for, I had to look for some help in the draft. I had to look for some help. I had a list of mons I wanted to pick up. For everyone that wanted me to pick up Reggie Drago, I'm sorry if I go 0-4. I'm blowing it up. So we're gonna go Reggie Drago mid-season. Yeah, we're gonna call in the backup. Morgan's gone, Mespert's gone. We're bringing in Drago. I was listening to Ben. I even talked to Zaw a bit about the team. I was just trying. I talked to the 2 people who were awake at 4 a.m. Pacific. That was Zaw and Ben, mainly Ben. And I had some help putting this team together, but every mon I wanted to use is on this team, except Morgrim. Morgrim was just like I wanted a prankster mon. And that was pretty much it. I think Cow Tower Don put me on Terra Slowbro, and since whoever said it first, I was like, I need to get Terra Slowbro. It's so hype. It's so awesome. So I was propagandized and had to pick up that mon. You know what's really funny? You go back to season 1 of the PBO. I had Diancie, Mesprit, Peasy, and Slowbro on my team. You go back to season 1, I had those 4 mons. Otherwise, Otherwise, I haven't used Meow, Trids, Wilger, Petch, Bax, and Morgrim. But these 4 I had back in season 1, all the way back then. So it was very appropriate. Very happy for this team. Again, just to end it off, if this team fails, it's because of me. It's not because of the team is bad, it's because I am bad. But we'll see. I got Big Will first. The Rain team, so thank you, Cats for the
all right.
For the hype.
I the last thing I want to say is, everything that we've said in here, we're just guys playing mons. At the end of the day, that's it. We're just guys playing and talking mons. So, don't take anything that we said too seriously. Anything we said about any changes, any mons in particular, whether it's, your favorite mon, or a mon you really wanted to try. We're just trying to help out the teams objectively. Play however you want, whatever team you want. At the end of the day, this is all just for fun. These are by no means, life and death. This is exactly how this season's going to play out. This is exactly who's going to win. This league's all about having fun. Draft however you want, play however you want. Don't break any rules. And yeah, just guys talking, playing mons.
Oh, predictions. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win, Aiden? Oh, give me your finals.
Soaring, and we're gonna say, I need to look at the teams real quick. Soaring versus, you know what? I think this is Ottawa's time. I think this is Ottawa's
versus Ottawa.
Soaring versus Ottawa.
Okay.
Gotta be his time.
I'm even gonna call the seeds. Soaring's gonna be like 3rd seed, not quite number 1, but it's gonna be 3rd seed. I'm gonna call Ottawa being like 6th seed, 3 seed versus 6th seed. Actually, wait, that puts them on the same side of the bracket. So 3 seed versus
5th
seed.
Yeah. Okay. My my paid for answer is going to be Soaring versus. I think Sydney will get there. I think we'll see him promote again. My non-paid for answer, I think. Ooh, this is tough. I think the potential of the Zarude Sandstorm team is enough to get it to that point, and I think it'll be interesting. It would be really cool if that team could get there. And I think they face off against. I'm gonna. Ooh, am I putting money on Gage again? I think we might be doing it. Carolina versus Zarude is my non-sponsored answer. Well, thank you guys for joining. That was fun. We'll be seeing you guys again after week 4 takes place. We'll be seeing you for the mid-season power rankings. Good luck to everybody on your first 4 weeks. I think we'll have some pretty cool matchups. We'll look forward to seeing if there's any changes made, any progress on the teams, what the kill leaders are like. I think this is going to be one of the more competitive Neon seasons that we've seen a little bit. We have some pretty hungry players, but we look forward to seeing what everybody's capable of, what the results are.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.